Hey there, this is Andy from Wyman Legal Solutions. And now that we've covered typical construction contract pricing in our last video, today I want to talk to you about some of the unique and important construction-related topics that you need to be aware of and that you need to consider when you're reviewing or negotiating a new home construction or home renovation contract for your home. The first important issue is the scope of the work to be performed. And for scope of work, more detail is better. Of course, you want the scope of work to be defined to include anything and everything that the contractor has promised you in your conversations. List them out, including any specific or special requirements or preferences, brand names, finishes, etc. It's also important that if you're working off of a set of plans that you indicate in the scope of work, that your contractor has reviewed those plans and that the work is intended to include everything identified in the plans and that would be normally inferable to be required by the plans. There are ways to say this legally in your contract, but the important point is that you want to know your contractor is including everything you need and that he cannot come back later to say something is going to cost you extra if he could or should have known from the beginning that the item would be required. Second big issue is changes in the work. There are times where you're going to want to change things mid-job for one reason or another. You need to expect that these changes can cause delays in your project and can also increase the price. The last thing you want to do is verbally discuss these changes only and have your contractor go ahead and do the change order work without documenting exactly what's being done, how much it's going to cost you, and how much time that might add to the completion of the job. That's just a recipe for a disagreement later on. Your contract needs to set out a clear procedure for documenting change orders that requires a written change order to be signed by the owner and the contractor before the change order work is performed so that there can be no confusion or misunderstanding. Next, you want to address how long the work is going to take. Most timeframes that are written into contracts are just estimates of how long the work is expected to take. But a job that drags on and on and on is one of the biggest complaints we see from new clients of ours. So how do you make that projected completion date have some actual teeth? First, you need to make sure that somewhere in your contract it indicates that time is of the essence. Second, some contracts have liquidated damages provisions that penalize the contractor for being late in completing the work. So for example, it may knock $100 per day off the price of your job for every day the project is completed past an agreed upon deadline. This is very much a negotiable item. The next big issue in your contract is you want to make sure that your contract has clear and fair payment schedule. As an owner, you want to hold as much money as possible to the end of the job to encourage the contractor to finish the work promptly. It's very important that the contract sets out that each progress payment is tied to the completion of a specific portion of the work, so that there can be no doubt as to when a payment is due. And for final payment, make sure that final payment is not made until after the job passes any final inspections or a certificate of occupancy is issued by the municipality, the county or the city that's issued the permit on your job. Next important issue is lien releases. You want to make sure that when you make payments that you receive the paperwork the law entitles you to receive. And you want to make sure that paperwork is written into your contract as a requirement to be provided by the contractor. This includes lien releases from the contractor and subcontractors every time you make a payment after the initial deposit. And this includes a contractor's final payment affidavit at the time of the last payment as well. For bigger jobs, I'd also recommend progress payment affidavits as well. Versions of these forms can be found in the Florida Construction Lien Law, Chapter 713. Finally, I just want to give you a quick word about insurance on big jobs. Builder's risk insurance is something that can be purchased for a job and that covers damage caused to the work as it is ongoing. For example, in case of a hurricane hits your project while it's ongoing. Neither your typical homeowner's policy or a contractor's typical liability policy is going to cover that type of damage. Only a builder's risk policy will cover that. It's a good idea to obtain this coverage if you're building a custom home or you're undertaking a significant structural change to your home and you're spending, let's say, $250,000 or more on renovations. These are just some of the many things we look out for our clients who hire us to represent, advise, and guide them through their home build or major renovation projects as part of our Renovation Concierge Retainer Plan. Call our office at 561-361-8700 and find out how we can help you have a successful project.